closely right there. Dirty Doug and Hot Stuff Eddie Gilbert.
You know, Dave Brown, it's real funny to me that Ricky Morton comes out here letting his alligator mouth overload his hummingbird butt. But let me tell you one thing. I'm sitting right here with my brother, the new king of professional wrestling, the world heavyweight wrestling champion. And they say stretcher match, Dave Brown. Do you know what we can do? We can bring a car in the Mid-South Coliseum and we can run right over them. Can't we, King? Hey, what it boils down right to, boys, is whatever it takes, we will do. Tell them stuff.
You know, Dave, someone said to me earlier this week, Eddie, you seem to have a high-toned voice on television. So today I'm going to try to talk like Eddie Gilbert talks, and that seems to be the only way sometimes to get people to wake up and listen to something. Ricky Morton, you came back to the USWA, and you said you were going to become the world heavyweight champion. Well, I slipped on a banana peel one night, and I let you win it for 1 week. And when I felt like taking it back, I took it back. And then you wanted to blame my brother Doug for your loss. And so that was your reason. That was your thinking for getting on the phone after not being able to talk to Robert Gibson for almost a year and a half, and you brought him back in to this area as the big rock and roll reunion. And then you want to try to steal all my girlfriends. You want to try to steal all my fans, all these beautiful women in this area, from Louisville, Kentucky, to Evansville, Indiana, to Nashville, Tennessee, even to Ripley, Tennessee, even here in Memphis, Tennessee. You want to try to steal my women? You want to talk about tag team wrestling? Well, we are wrestling. We are the greatest wrestling family in wrestling today. And this week, stretcher match, the only way that you can win, Dave, and you know what it is when your opponent gets carried out of the ring on a stretcher. Well, I'm going to add one little bonus to this, boys. The people are going to get to see the death of rock and roll this week, because both of you, not just one of you, will be carried out. And also, I would like to make my official announcement. I am now running for the presidency of the United States of America.
That's all we need. The Gilberts, they'll be back later on. They'll be in the ring.
From title belts to Hall of Fame, Doug and Tommy carved the name. Fists of fury and hearts of gold. Every story, every fight retold. Tales of glory, laughter, cry. Tennessee warriors with hearts open wide. In the ring or on the air, legends living without a care. On the mic they roar, on the mat they soar. Dangerous conversations, fans wanting more. Podcast kings ruling the waves. Memphis wrestling raising the stage.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode number 23 of Dangerous Conversations with Dangerous Doug Gilbert and Tommy Wildfire Rich. Guys, can you believe we've been doing this for 23 episodes?
Well, you know what, Gene? I didn't figure I'd make it through 3, so I'm very proud, and I was glad Tommy come on about 6 or 7 episodes into it, right, or something like that, and everything. But man, I really enjoy doing this, and me and you and Tommy being on here together and talking and telling those stories. I love it.
Somebody say something about, hey, I'm glad to be aboard with y'all, man. Hey, it's all fun and just reminiscing about the old days and bringing back, hey, Gene bring back a lot of memories that I done forgot. So when he brings this stuff up, it's really cool, and it's really cool to share it with the fans too. So everybody tune in and share with your friends, because we love you.
That's right. And you know what, guys? I mean, yeah, we get on here every week and we reminisce about great stories and memories. But you know what? You guys are still making memories. We still got some more dates. Memphis Mafia is coming in strong in 2025. February 1st, you guys are going to be in Wynne, Arkansas. March the 1st, you guys are going to be at the Comic Con there in Jackson, Tennessee at the Carl Perkins Center. March 14th and 15th. Tommy's going to be heading north. We're going to have a little more information about that coming up. On March 14th, Doug is going to be in Henderson at the Carl Perkins event over there for child abuse, right? Is that right, Doug?
It sure is. Henderson, Tennessee at the Carl Perkins. Would actually be at the high school, and but it's for the Carl Perkins Child Abuse Center and everything. I mean, it's a great cause, and everybody come out. We'd love to see y'all for some good old Southern wrestling.
To get out there and support it, because it is a great cause, man. You're doing a good thing, Dougie.
And we've had Tommy there Tommy was there last year, actually, I think. Right, Tommy?
Yeah.
Me and you was there. No, it wasn't last year, year before last and everything. And, or I might be wrong, but no, I think it's the year before last.
Year before last.
Yeah, because last year's one of my
You got a better memory than me, anyway.
there you go. It's the year before last, but yeah, it's cool.
Then you guys, April 18th and 19th, WrestleMania weekend, you guys will be in Las Vegas for Game Changer Wrestling. Of course, you guys always have a good time when you go out there for a Game Changer Wrestling, wherever it's at. So excited to see what you guys are going to get up to in Vegas for GCW.
Oh, man, I love to go to Vegas, and I know Tommy does too. And, Brett is a cool dude and everything to work for. And, I mean, he's got great guys, great talent and everything, and I can't wait for that.
It's always a good time, man. And, they a good bunch. I mean, it ain't about him and me. It's, they about each other. And it's always, everybody's good with everybody. They small party animals like me too,
Yeah. Hey, they're good people.
Absolutely. GCW is a lot of fun. It's a great mix. You got old school, you got, wild deathmatch style wrestling. There's something for everybody on those GCW shows. So make sure you check that out. And then May the 3rd, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, TWA One and Done. That big event's going to be in the afternoon. There's going to be a fan fest that evening. There's going to be a show. You guys are going to be in action. Memphis Mafia versus Team Extreme. The franchise, Shane Douglas, bringing a mystery partner to take you guys on. Can't wait for that one. So a lot of cool stuff in line for the Memphis Mafia coming up over in 2025. And we keep adding new stuff. Every time I talk to you guys each week, you guys have added on some new dates. So, folks, keep it coming. And if you want to get Doug and Tommy for your event, you can send an email to DougGilbertPodcast@outlook.com. And I will get you in touch with these guys, and we will get them headed out. They can wrestle. They can come and do signings. They can come out and do appearances, commercials, you name it. They'll come party with you. Whatever you want to do, the Memphis Mafia will make it happen.
Party cake with G.
I think Tommy wants me to leave with that party thing, and then we just kind of
leave.
Bring these guys out and party. If you just have to do any of this other stuff, they'll do that. But we're looking to party here. We're Tommy.
Hey, ain't nothing wrong with a good party. We just brought New Year's in. I hope everybody's New Year's has started off great. And like I said, just if y'all like our show, man, check it out. Share with your friends and keep tuning us in, man.
Yeah, share on anything you're listening to us on. Share and man, we'll tell her if you got any questions. Like I said, I don't think Gene will tell you that me and Tommy hadn't answered to the best of our ability and actually to the truth.
That's right.
Even if it hurts.
That's right. So send those questions in. We're going to be doing another Q&A episode here real soon. So you can send that same email address, DougGilbertPodcast@outlook.com. Send in your questions, or you can post them on our Facebook page, and we will ask those in an upcoming Q&A episode coming up very, very soon right here on Dangerous Conversations. And, guys, it's been nothing but good feedback. Everybody's having fun listening to you guys tell stories and reminisce. And a lot of good feedback on the WCW 89 episode. A lot of people telling me that they learned a lot that they didn't realize, that Eddie was doing a lot of the booking and that he had a hand in some of those big storylines that they remember so fondly, like the Terry Funk and Ric Flair angle, and then him, helping bring Steamboat in. A lot of fun stories last week. So, folks, don't miss a single episode because you're gonna miss a story that you've never heard before. Lord knows every week I'm learning something new, and I'm learning I think I know a lot of this stuff, and I know enough to ask you guys questions. But the fun part is I'm always finding out new things each and every week that I didn't know before, and that's what makes this show so good.
Well, you know what? I actually saw something today that was funny to me that I hadn't saw before. It was Tommy Rich and who was your partner against Gino Hernandez and Gene? Who was that you put on there?
Oh yeah, it was Tommy and Dick Slater against Tully and Gino.
Against Tully.
Hey, do you remember that, Tommy?
Lord, that was that's back when Dick Slater, he was doing the booking for Joe Blanchard, and I went out to San Antonio. And Gino, he worked for Paul Bosch. That was Paul Bosch loved Gino. Which Gino was really good pay. I love Gino too. It's sad we lost him, at a young age, but Gino was good, and he come in and worked for Mr. Blanchard, Joe Blanchard, and me and Dickie wrestled. That was some of Dickie's booking right there, but we wrestled Gino and Tully, and they both. And Tully, it was an easy match because they both could work their butts off.
I found that match, and I immediately man, I got to get this on the Facebook page because I didn't know that match ever happened. And, a lot of people talk about Tully and Arn, and, hey, Tully and Arn was a great tag team. But, man, if you're a younger person, if you never got a chance to see Tully Blanchard and Gino Hernandez, what a tag team those guys were.
Hey, Gino was great. And it's like I said, people talk about Arn and Tully, but Arn and Jerry Stubbs also was great.
Yes. Yep,
but Gino, I watched that match. You're gonna laugh. I watched all of it and everything, and I thought it was great.
Yeah, Gino's one of those guys like Eddie that man, if we hadn't lost him as soon as we did, I think both of those guys would still be heavily involved in some shape or form today. Because just man, what a talent! And Gino was just the consummate heel. Like I think more people need to know about him.
Or Gino be
pretty nasty, too. He was. I got along with him. He was fun to be around.
Yeah, and Gino, he would sure still be in the wrestling business, or he'd be running Mexico 1, right, Tommy?
Yeah, one or the other. Yeah.
That's true.
And I don't mean that bad. Everybody's told me I never met Gino. They said Gino was great and everything, but he was a great worker. I've sure watched matches of him. He's a great worker.
Well, guys, we're going to go back and, recently we started talking about you guys in the USWA. We got through 1990. So we're going to pick back up this week. And like I said, this is a topic we're going to dip in and out on. We're not going to do every episode, but we're going to come back to it. So this week we finished up 1990. So we're going to just barely touch on 91 because really 1991, Tommy, you spent most of 1991 in WCW. Doug, you spent a good portion of 1991 in Global, which we've already talked about on this podcast before. But you did come in for bits and pieces of 1991. So we're going to talk about a little bit about that. And then we're going to get into 92. So on February 15th, Doug, you wrestled Eric Embry. Now, he's somebody we haven't talked about much here on the show. And guys I've talked to in the past either run hot or cold on Embry. They either really like him or they really don't like him. So I was interested to see how you guys feel about Eric Embry and what your memories are of working with him.
Well, I can't stand him, but I told him last time I saw him, he come up and tried to shake my hand or hug my neck, and I was in the main event right outside of Nashville, and I told the promoter to either get him out of the building or I'd leave, and I told him he had 5 minutes, and he left before 5 minutes.
Wow.
And
tell me what you really think, Dougie.
Well, I'm telling you, I'm gonna be honest with you. That's why I said we don't not be honest. I don't like him.
Well, I'm there for my damn self. 2 out of 2 ain't bad.
I know we've talked about in the past. We're not here to slam anybody, but is it wrestling related, or just you just personally don't like the guy?
No,
is there any kind of?
No, it's actually he's just he was a dirty human being, just dirty. Filthy.
Bad.
I don't know how else to say it, and I'd like to say I don't mean that bad, but how can you not mean it bad? But booking I thought was awful, and I didn't like it.
Yeah, that's fair. Like I said, that's been my findings, either hot or cold. Either people really like him or they really don't like him, and it seems to be more people that don't than do. But
Damn, you know how to stir it up, don't you, brother?
Oh man, just asking the questions people want to hear about.
I heard that. Yeah, I'm not Eric fan either. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know too many that are, but
I've heard some pretty strong rants on some other podcasts from our friend Downtown Bruno that went into some pretty big details of why he didn't like Eric, and it was understandable.
It's probably booking wise, right?
Yeah. Well, he tells a story of Eric was taking over booking, and Bruno went and picked him up at the airport, and he said as soon as Eric got in the car, one of the first things Eric Embry ever says to him when he meets him is, "You better find somewhere to go, Bruno, because you and these Lawler guys are going to be getting out of here." And basically was telling the guy, "I'm going to fire you." The first thing he ever says to him. And so that's how they met,
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, what kind of guy would say that? That's what I'm saying, a dirty type guy. Yeah. I mean, who would say that?
Yeah, that's Bruno's story to tell. But, just kind of gives you an example of how he leads in. But here's some guys you like better. February 25th, Doug, you and your dad wrestled Eddie Marlin and Jeff Jarrett, which I'm sure had to be fun for everybody involved, given the history of your dad and Eddie Marlin as partners and opponents over the years. And then, of course, you and Jeff. Any memories of that?
Oh, yeah. We had I loved the matches, and I loved them because, I mean, Jeff was a great worker, and my dad being partners with Eddie, and, me being around Eddie so much when I was a kid and growing up my whole life and everything. And like I said, the first time I worked for the promotion for Jerry Jarrett, Eddie Marlin called me and asked me to come work for him. So there was a lot of things about Eddie that probably could have been different, but I mean, but Eddie was a good guy.
Yeah.
Except when he didn't pay Tommy for working 5 times.
I swear to goodness, that's what I was thinking about. He loved Dougie. And I knew it better than Dougie did. And yeah, I went, Dougie turned around and got home, and I got left working 4 times. Yeah, he loved Dougie. No, but that was some good history there. And I imagine that was a heck of a show. I mean, Doug and his dad, Jeff Jarrett and Eddie Marlin. I mean, that's a lot of history. That's a lot of young history and old history too. So that's pretty cool. I didn't know that match happened. So
and I mean, it was cool. And I mean, as far as serious is what it was to the people. And I mean, as far as my dad and Eddie being partners, and then me and Jeff being Eddie's grandson, me being my dad's son and everything. So it was history. And I mean that it draws money, attention, everything. And I mean, the people believe it.
Absolutely.
And the matches was good.
And that's some Hatfield and McCoy stuff. I mean, that's generations,
Right.
What's really cool about it too. I mean, and people don't realize that. I mean, you go back to the Funks. I mean, they come from a wrestling family. Jeff Jarrett, Dougie. I mean, it's just crazy, the history of some of the wrestling families in the business. You got the Briscoes. I mean, you had the twins, whatever the twins are there in Tennessee. What's the name?
The Baton Twins. They weren't Tennessee, but
no, they worked for Burt.
The Star Twins. I don't think they're twins, but
the older one's passed away now.
Oh yeah, what was that called?
Batten.
The who?
Batten, wasn't they the Batten Twins?
Well, the Batten Twins they wasn't from here, but they was there. But
I'm here, but
yeah.
I mean, and then
but there was 2 twins from here, from Nashville, but I can't remember their last names. But me and you worked with them, Tommy, a few times. That Tommy goes in dark on us, don't Gene?
Yeah, he lights up. So peek behind the curtain, folks. We're back on StreamYard here. We got Tommy on StreamYard, so we can all see each other now. So Tommy will be lit up, and then he'll go pitch black dark, and then he lights back up. But it's fun because now I can see, as Doug's telling something, I can see Tommy start to laugh, and I know Tommy's about to have a comment.
In front of it.
Okay, there we go. There you are.
But yeah, I saw Tommy start laughing a minute ago when Doug was putting over Eddie Marlin, and I knew Tommy was about to have a funny story to tell.
Shit. I mean, my dad and Eddie Marlin, they was good friends. That's how I met Eddie Marlin and even got around the wrestling business. Back before Eddie Marlin started wrestling, they worked at Greyhound together, I think, or somewhere. But they went down to the wrestling school to try out. And they went the first time. My daddy, he quit, and Eddie Marlin came back. So yeah, that's a lot of history. Yeah, my daddy, he got straight, and he didn't come back. Eddie Marlin came back, and of course they stayed friends and everything. But I used to go, like I said, with Eddie, and I go with Tom. Eddie and Tom be going to Evansville or different trips, and I'd always get to catch one every now and then. And that's some of the good things I remember about the wrestling too. Was before I ever got in it. I mean, just how cool it was,
So in March of '91, you did some stuff down in Puerto Rico, which we want to dig into in the future. We'll talk some more about Puerto Rico. But you joined Tommy for some shots in WCW, which we've talked about in the past. Had some matches with Luger, and the listener asked us about the one with PN News. You worked with the Young Pistols, and of course, Tommy was working pretty consistent around that time as part of the York Foundation, which we talked a little bit about during the Q&As. Right. But then you went back to the USWA in June, and in July, you had a couple of matches against a very young Chris Candido. Did he stand out to you at the time as a young man that was going to have a bright future in the business, or was he just, another kid you had a match with?
He was a good, solid worker. I mean, Chris was a good, solid worker, but it was like he was like an old school type worker, but like no gimmick type or anything. But yeah, Chris was really great, and he had a great attitude, and he really looked up to my brother. My brother really liked him, and he was just a really good guy. I mean, down to earth. I mean, if he could help anybody, he would, and everything. And Eddie always helped him out.
I was fixing to say Eddie took him under his wing, didn't he?
Yeah, he sure did.
Because he told me, I know when I went to ECW and everything, he always talked good about Eddie.
Yeah, Eddie took care of him in Memphis, got him in Memphis, and then took care of him the whole time he was here.
That's cool. That result kind of stuck out in my head, and I thought, well, I want to ask you about Candido, because I know he got into business really young, and and it was from up around New Jersey, and he was bound and determined to get down to Tennessee because he had always read about Memphis wrestling and was a big fan of all the guys. So
and he saw Eddie and Lawler, and those guys was up there all the time for Dennis and the different guys, for Joel, for Dennis and everything, and that was cool.
So we're going to head on into 1992 at this point, and in the USWA, and at the tail end of July of '92, Doug, you and Eddie have a couple matches with the Rock and Roll Express, with the Gilbert brothers winning a tag team stretcher match. What do you remember about working with the Rock and Roll Express around 1992?
I remember I've got a long cut across my head from one of the nights in Louisville. And, I remember Robert Gibson tagging Ricky and saying, get in here. I think he's going to bleed to death. And I thought, when we got back to back, blood was all over me and everything. But we had great matches, which, Ricky and Robert, great workers and everything. And I mean, me and Eddie working with them, I think we all had good chemistry and everything. And, I mean, you couldn't have a bad match with them.
No, to this day.
Doug and Eddie, that's a good heel combination, because they heels at heart, and then you got Rick and Robert, which are baby faces at heart. So I mean, so everybody worked together. I mean, I can imagine. I bet it was a hell of a match.
I loved it. I was in there with three of my idols. I mean, I loved Ricky and Robert, and my brother was my favorite and everything. And I mean, my dad was my favorite also and everything. But I mean, just being in the ring with my brother and Ricky and Robert, to me, it was just awesome.
Yeah, I wish some of those whole matches existed on tape. I'd love to be able to see some of those matches. But that jumped out at me on paper, exactly what Tommy just said. Consummate heel team, consummate babyface team. There's no way it couldn't be great matches.
I think I saw it somewhere. I'll have to try to, or somebody's got it, send it to Gene and everything. Yes. But because the Louisville one, I think somebody's got that I've seen before years ago. Yes,
absolutely. Reach out to us on Facebook or shoot me an email. Love to see that. People have been good about that lately.
But now, Gene, that's going to be on like VHS or something before that, so you could change that over, I guess.
Oh, yeah. I've got a setup for that. There's a lot of the stuff you see on Facebook that I'm putting up, I've pulled off of VHS tapes, so that's not a problem. So then on August the 10th, after being away from Memphis for a few years at this point, Tommy Wildfire Rich returns to the USWA, and in his first match back, he defeats Doug Gilbert at the Mid-South Coliseum. You guys remember that match? Doug, you remember being excited to have a match with Tommy as he comes back?
Oh, yeah, I was tickled to death. Now, my brother, not so much, because, and I don't mean this bad or anything, but my brother thought they was bringing Tommy in to work against him, and I think that's when he was maybe the unified champion, maybe not, but I think it was. And but they had him work against Dundee and me work against Tommy. And Eddie thought he got the short end of that stick, which
no pun intended.
No, I didn't mean that as a joke. But anyway, he wanted to work against Tommy because he knew how over Tommy was, which Bill was over, but Bill was there every week.
And so I was fresh, and that makes a difference too. Yeah, I was coming in fresh. And shit, I mean, me and Eddie, but but the hard that is, I work with Doug. I bet he did find that hard to take.
Well, and the thing about, boy, you talking about getting got onto when you got back from the ring, and I thought me and Tommy had a great match. And you know what Eddie's logic of it was? He said the match was good, but it would have been greater. He said, you know what you did wrong? And I said, no, but I'm sure you're fixing to tell me. And he said, yeah. He said, whenever you was taking them bumps, you should have got up quicker. He's talking about during Tommy's comeback. And I thought, and I thought, shit, I was blowed up. I couldn't get up no quicker.
You're supposed to set it a little bit too.
Yeah, he'd have got you either way on that one, Doug. If you'd have got up too quick, like, and you wasn't selling, man. You gotta.
Yeah, there you go.
So the following week after that, you and Eddie, along with Brian Christopher and Buddy Landel, the Memphis Mafia here, you guys would defeat the team of Bill Dundee, the Rock and Roll Express, and Tommy Rich, an 8-man tag team match.
Now,
you talk about a babyface team there. Listen to that.
Hold on, say that again now, Gene.
So it's you and Eddie, along with Brian Christopher and Buddy Landel, and you guys beat Bill Dundee, the Rock and Roll Express, and Tommy Rich in an 8-man tag team match. Talk about another match I'd like to see footage of.
Yeah, but that'd be a classic there.
And there is footage of it out there also, Gene. We just got to get it.
We got to get it. So you're listening, folks. Help us out.
And man, that was, to me, that was some of the best days as far as for me, that I loved. Because I watched everybody I was in the ring with. I grew up watching and everything. I mean, it was cool.
Now, I got to figure, I mean, now you're talking about, 8 really good, serious workers, but at the same time, quite a few guys that are friends in there. I got a feeling there had to be some fun to be had in that match as well, just amongst you guys, even if the people watching necessarily didn't pick up on it. But
there most definitely was. And the thing about it was, I mean, we might have said something to each other back before we went out to the ring, but all of it was about caught in the ring, right, Tommy?
Oh, I mean, and you think that whole card you just listed got their major break right there in Memphis. I mean, Ricky and Robert, that's where they got
Bill.
The Gil. I mean, it's in Brian. I mean, that's in Memphis where it started, just to get in there and get 8 guys and they drawed money, man. It was pretty damn cool.
You did say Bill instead of Brian, didn't you, Gene?
Yeah, Brian was on your team with you. It was Brian, Buddy, and you and Eddie, and then Bill,
Right.
Ricky, Robert, and Tommy.
That was before Tommy had come into the Memphis Mafia.
Right. And so, I mean, you got to think,
Hey, and would you have thought, Gene, we would have had to talk him into coming into the Memphis Mafia? You thought him and Eddie would have been the first two, right?
Right. Absolutely. I mean, but man, it's no wonder that you and Brian turned out as good as you did. I mean, you look at the guys you're in the ring with right there. You and Brian are in there with, Eddie and Buddy and Ricky and Robert and Bill Dundee, Tommy Rich. The amount of money those guys had drawn amongst themselves.
Yeah.
There's no way that you guys aren't going to learn, and be great.
And you're talking about that match, Gene. What about the and then there was that 10-man tag, right? Also that me and Tommy and Brian was in, and Terry Funk and Lawler.
Yeah, we're going to get to that. That's a doozy.
And I mean, but just matches like that, people don't understand how much that meant to me and everything. But what I was saying about what Eddie was saying about, like, during Tommy's comeback and everything, he told me, he said, but Eddie was a perfectionist. You can ask Tommy or anybody that knew Eddie, and he said, you should have been getting up quicker from them bumps. But what he was talking about was he was wanting the people to pop more. But what he's hot about was I was the one that got to work with Tommy, and he didn't.
Right.
That's what it amounted to. Yeah.
But, you think of how well that served you over the years, because I've seen it in dressing rooms where young guys come through, and it's all a bunch of young guys on the show, and they'll go, how's my match? And everybody just passes them back, goes, oh, yeah, it's great, man. It's great. Well, all they hear is it's great. But, you were getting constructive criticism that helped you learn, and now you understand what he wanted from that. And
you know what, Gene? The thing about it is Tommy would tell me if something was wrong. It wasn't like, the guys, say, oh, it's all good and everything. If it was something that I'd done wrong, Tommy would tell me I'd done it wrong and everything. If it was something that like Buddy Landel ever seen that you done wrong, he would tell you it was wrong. If something Eddie ever seen that was wrong, he'd dang sure tell you it was wrong. But what I'm saying, all them guys, it wasn't, like today everybody just wants to pat you on the back and get a payday and everything and say, oh, it's good. But that wasn't the way it was then. They wanted to make you better and everything. Tommy wanted to make you better. Buddy wanted to make you better. Eddie wanted to make you better. Ricky wanted to make you better. Robert wanted to make you better. And that's what helped me and Brian. Guys like that, professionals.
See, but now it's about feelings. It's about feelings back then, and which it's feelings too, But I mean, constructive criticism is good, and we wasn't it wasn't just dogging his butt; it's just to make him better.
Yeah,
right.
Some of these guys that shit today, it's like, oh my God, it just it's a different horse now. But and when I broke in, I listened to everything. Them guys would tell me.
And
I wanted to know. I didn't want to say it was a good match if it wasn't.
And you know what, Gene? Me and Brian kept our mouth shut and listened. Right. And we're today, they tell me the young guys, and I just try not to even, I try to be nice to everyone, but they say the young guys today, they try to tell the older guys that they don't know what they're doing, and they know what they're doing, and like the older guys don't know what. Yeah,
they'll just defend themselves. I've seen that a million times where guys will come through the curtain and a veteran will try to say, hey, man, when you do this, you should – and they'll cut them off, go, well, no, the reason we did that was this. And it gets to a point where guys like y'all are just like, oh, there's no need in talking to these kids. And they're on a show with, two guys like Doug Gilbert and Tommy Rich that can give them all this wisdom. And you guys are to a point where you're just like, I ain't talking to I ain't wasting my time trying to help this guy. And that's why nobody's getting better anymore, because they all just talk amongst themselves and they all know everything. But that's a whole nother show. But
the only thing, if somebody asked me and Tommy to watch the match or something and tell them what's wrong, we'll watch the match and tell them what's wrong and everything. And that's the people that wants to learn. But the one that don't are the ones that are saying like what you're saying. Well, no, that's why we did this. So they don't understand what the old-fashioned way of doing things is, and getting heat and selling and. Go ahead, Tom.
Doug, that's where Doug's still a good. He'll tell him it sucks. Where I'll tell him, well, it was all right.
Well, I don't.
The way y'all did it drew thousands of fans and thousands of dollars, and the way they're doing it now, it's high fives all around. If we get 200 people there, and nobody even thinks about drawing money, it's not even on their mind. We want to have a good match. We want to get all our spots in. They don't think about what's going to sell tickets. Like, we talked about in the recent show, the whole time you guys were in the ring, you're thinking about what's going to sell next time, what's going to bring people back. They don't even think about that shit anymore. It's not about that, but that's a whole nother podcast. We stay positive here, right, guys? So
we're going to stay positive. Sure. Like I said, every once in a while.
You're just speaking the truth, man. Hey, what it is. I mean, that's what, but that's how the business has changed. It's a different horse now. It ain't. Used to hell, but we used to get paid putting asses in the seat too. It's different now. It's like you said, Gene. Most of them now, they just want to look good in front of their 5 friends they got out there at the crowd.
Hey, Gene.
Yeah.
You see this thing behind me?
I do.
It actually works, and there's no clothes hanging on it. Tommy, you see it?
I see it. What is it?
It's a Peloton. And I never knew what it was till Melissa wanted one for we said Christmas, but what did I tell you, Gene? We got it about 6 months before Christmas.
Yeah.
Oh, but it was part of our Christmas present and everything. But man, it tells you get on it, Tommy, and it tells you it's linked in to the computer system, and you like ride with other people. It's a bike. You ride, or you watch movies, whatever you want to do. But it cuts down. I mean, I'm trying to get back in the best shape I can get in for this 2025 tour, and I'm trying. And Tommy's right behind me.
That's that kind of fancy stuff Ivan Drago was using in Rocky IV. Them fancy computerized stuff, Tommy. He's getting Doug serious about this stuff.
He ain't playing, is he?
I don't know. It's coming in hot.
Hey, it's Bob Smith, and guess what? The Outdated Wrestling Hour is now part of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network. But hey, no fear, you're still going to hear the unique guests, comedy, music, authors, journalists, funny people. Who knows who's going to end up on the Outdated Wrestling Hour? Remember, it's all new and all old. So check it out in the WrestleCopia Podcast Network and wherever you get your podcasts. Listen if you know what's good for you.
Hey everybody, Gene Jackson here, inviting you to check out the Retro Wrestling Review, where each week I'm joined by some great co-hosts who help me review classic episodes of USWA Championship Wrestling, and right now we are doing week-by-week reviews of 1993. But we don't just do reviews, sometimes we get a chance to interview some of the people who were there and lived it, plus do watch-alongs. It's a lot of fun, so check out new episodes that drop every Wednesday at WrestleCopia.com. And to find links to everything associated to the podcast, you can go to USWApodcast.com.
Hey guys, Ray Russell here, curator of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network, inviting you guys to listen to many of the programs here as part of the WrestleCopia brand, including, but not limited to, the Wrestling Memory Grenade, currently covering the 1988 and the WWF project. You can also listen to the Regional Wrestling Podcast, where we talk the territories, whether it's Jamie Ward with Georgia 81, Roman Gomez with the UWF in 1986, or Gene Jackson covering Memphis in 85. 3 projects going on right now over there at Regional Wrestling. You can also listen to the Wrestling Stoop with the legend himself, Bob Roop. Bob goes back in time each and every week, covering not just his career, but countless stories and interactions with hundreds of wrestling names spanning his 2 decades in the business. But that's not all. You can also check out the Puro Wrestling Academy with the professor of Puro Resu, Mr. Dan Ginnity. Dan and I go back in time and cover the history of Japanese professional wrestling in the English language. And you can listen to all of those shows and more, all part of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network, located over at WrestleCopia.com. That's WrestleCopia.com, and anywhere your podcast streaming needs are met, from Apple to Spotify, Pocket Cast, and beyond. And while you're at it, why not subscribe to our social media guys for all the latest goings on here at the WrestleCopia Podcast Network. Plus, I'm constantly adding old school video clips and pictures from throughout wrestling history. You can follow us over on X, formerly Twitter, at Wrestling Grenade. That's at RASSLIN Grenade. Also, follow and like me, Facebook.com/Wrestling Grenade. And why not subscribe to YouTube.com/Wrestling Grenade. So if you're looking to support that next up-and-coming podcast brand, please consider making it WrestleCopia.
So over the next few weeks, you and Eddie continued to work with Ricky and Robert, while Tommy turned heel on Bill Dundee and started having matches against Bill. And eventually that led to them bringing in the Junkyard Dog team against Tommy and Buddy. And in some matches, Tommy teamed with Buddy. In other matches, he teamed with Billy Joe Travis. And
Hey, Gene. Hey, Gene, can I ask Tommy this?
Yeah.
Tommy, did your matches with Bill, you had good matches with Bill, didn't you?
Well, yeah. I mean, but it's kind of like pulling teeth. They's hard. I mean, just Bill, but they was good. Bill was hell. I mean, yeah.
But Bill was but that's what I was going to ask, because Bill's a hell of a worker and everything. But I never heard my brother have problems having great matches with people. But it was like the chemistry or something wasn't there. Then when I worked with him, it was like the same. Bill was great, and I love Bill.
Yeah.
But it was like, it was hard. I mean, I don't know why, but like some people can't. And it's like me and Tommy talk. Like, I mean, as a tag team and everything, I love working against Tommy too. But I loved it better as far as us being a tag team and everything. But the chemistry with Bill was, and I never heard my brother say that with hardly anybody or anything. And Bill drew so much money in Memphis, and he could work and was such a great worker and everything. But Tommy and I worked with him during his prime, where I was working with him at the end of his, and I was thinking maybe that was why me and Eddie was having a problem, but maybe not. Maybe it was just the chemistry wasn't there.
Oh, I believe even with him and Jerry Lawler, can you imagine Jerry Lawler and Bill working with each other? I mean, that had to be hard to both of them.
Well,
I don't mean disrespect to nobody. When you said that, the chemistry and stuff, but I mean, it's like Jerry Lawler draw big money, and so did Bill. And so, can you imagine them? I mean, them two. I mean, you think we had a hard match? I bet they both thought they had a hard match. I mean. But Bill was, I mean, I remember some matches with him. And of course, I remember when they first come in, when George Barnes and him come in from Australia, and I was working babyface, and they come in, as Australian, and they beat the dog stink out of me, And so, and as it went that I turned heel and worked against Bill, but that's when Bill did work heel and turned babyface. And he worked kind of like a heel still. I mean, and if anybody Lawler probably had the least stress match with him than we did, because we worried about it more. Lawler just took control of it, I reckon.
Right.
I mean, for me, if I was one of them two, I think that'd be a harder match than with you with Bill or me with Bill. You know what I mean?
Right. You're probably right. And the only thing, this probably didn't help anything with me. Lawler told me right before I went out to the interview, he told me and Bill talked for a second, but after Bill went out for the interview, I went out about 30 seconds later, and Lawler said, he waited till Bill left before he said this. He said, go out there and call him old man. Say, old man, you can't beat me. If you think you can beat me, you're crazy. And oh my God, as quick as I said that, before I got old man out of my mouth, he done slapped me, and we went right to brawling on the floor. And I thought, boy, that probably didn't help my match.
You got set up. For sure.
But I mean, Lawler knew that people would believe that, though. I mean, that would make Dundee hot, and he would slap me right off the bat because what it was supposed to be, we were supposed to do a promo a little bit after that. Then me jump Dundee, but quick as I said to that old man, he slapped the shit out of me.
So I'm glad you said that. I want to ask you guys this. There was this big debate on Facebook recently amongst a bunch of wrestlers, and people were debating whether to call for one wrestler, a younger wrestler, to call another wrestler old man. They were debating whether it was kosher or whatever, there was argument on both sides.
It's not good. You shouldn't. That was.
Well, you're doing what the boss told you.
I was doing what the boss told me, but no, because all you're doing is making the people think. I mean, if you do beat somebody and you're calling them old man, who are you beating?
Right.
Yeah, right, Tommy. I mean,
and that's
But
not the competition. And if you say go out there, I mean, it's like, well, he's older than dirt. I mean, that's you just defeating your purpose. Hey, this guy's proved he's a legend in this business, and I've got an opportunity to go out here and beat a legend. That sounds much better than I'm an old man.
Right.
Yeah.
It sure does. But I mean, the thing, the only reason I think Lawler told me to say it was he knew Dundee's reaction on TV, and he knew the people would believe it and they would buy tickets. And that's, but no, it's not good. It's not a good thing.
Lawler knew that was going to piss Dundee off.
Right. Exactly. And like I'm saying, that probably didn't help my matches with him either.
No, they didn't help the chemistry, I'm sure.
No.
I'm going to show this kid who the old man is, brother. So before we move on from that, speaking of, so how was, you'd been around him for years, Tommy. How was 1992 JYD to work with compared to, 80s Junkyard Dog? And how did he get over at this point with the Memphis crowd? Because he never was really a Memphis guy.
Oh, man, I love JYD. Me and him, I got some after-hour stories about JYD. I mean, he was a good friend of mine. He come to Georgia. And, of course, I remember when he first come to Memphis. He come in a Pinto, and that's the first time I met him, JYD.
Sylvester, that's when he was Sylvester Ritter.
Yeah, Sylvester Ritter, actually, yeah. And he had, what stuff he had was in the back of that Pinto, man. And then, of course, we went on. He finished up in Memphis and then got over in Louisiana like ain't nobody's business.
Oh, he got up.
He was hot everywhere he went. After he went to Louisiana, I mean, he, and just and a good person too. I mean, I never had no problem with him. I never heard nobody say nothing bad about him. JYD, that's another loss I hate with, But, he was very good people and drawed money. I mean, but that Louisiana, when he got over in Louisiana, he was over around the world. I mean, he was something else.
Hey, I love JYD. Like I said before, Gene, I traveled with him and Ron Simmons on the road for WCW, and we had a great time. I mean, they're both those guys are good guys. JYD's a great guy. Me and Bobby Eaton, he'd invite me and Bobby over to his house, and in his garage, he had I think it was actually the same Mercedes that he bought from Bill Watts. He always kept, and but you know what was in the doll in the seat of the Mercedes? The windows rolled down. I mean, perfect Mercedes. Everything good about the seat was rolled down. And he told me and Bobby, he said, "Come out here to the garage. I want to show you my car." Well, we went out there and he showed us his car all right, but when he turned the light on and he said something, all of a sudden this dog jumped out of the window of the car, and that dog slept in the driver's seat of that Mercedes. And I mean, it was a perfectly great Mercedes.
Wow.
But I mean, there's so many stories like that to tell about Dog. I mean, he's like Tommy said, I had so much fun with him, at the building, away from the building, and traveling and everything. He was just, I mean, he'd keep you laughing, wouldn't he, Tommy?
Yes, sir. Yeah, he was all around good. I don't know. I don't think I've heard nobody say nothing bad about him. I sure ain't got nothing bad to say about him. But yeah, he's good people.
And I don't know that anybody's ever been more over in Louisiana than JYD.
I love anytime I get to talk to somebody from that era of Mid-South, just like when we talked to Lynn Denton. I love hearing the stories, and I always ask them, like, can you really understand how over he was? And everyone's like, no, man, you cannot appreciate. If you weren't there, you cannot appreciate how much they loved that man.
Right. Well, they said, you know, the Superdomes, the Superdome shows that he was on and everything was so great. And I mean, not just the Superdome, everywhere he went, he was so over. And I mean, and the booking helped that, but he was the character and everything that he did was solid. You know, they told me one time that Watts told him when he come in the territory that he didn't want him to do a lot of things. He just wanted him to do a few things, but he wanted him to do them few things good and everything. And he wound up doing a lot of things good and a lot of things right. And he made a lot of money, and he was just a great fellow. And like I said, listen, guys, everybody rate, review, and subscribe, whatever platform you're listening on. Like I said, if you want to book parties, Comic Cons, Celeb Cons, whatever you want. If you want to book me and Tommy on them, we'll be more than happy to come. If you want to buy some T-shirts, T's Gilbert Family, Memphis Mafia shirts be on there. We've got everything for you.
That's right. Check it out. There's lots of cool stuff. On August 31st on USWA television, Doug, you did a 6-man tag team match with two guys who weren't around very long. They were called the Russian Unified Team. These guys had to be like training school guys, right? Do you remember anything about them?
This was which TV are you talking about?
This was on USWA TV on August 31st in 1992.
And who was my partner?
They were called the Russian Unified Team. There's a couple of guys in masks that were supposed to be Russian guys, but they were not great. So I'm assuming they were like guys that had come through like the USWA training school or something, probably.
Yeah, but I mean, who was my partner? Was I wrestling both?
They were your partner. They were your partners.
They were
it was a 6-man tag, and you tagged.
Well, I must have really been on somebody's crappy list.
Well, you know how Memphis they would just jam people up in the tag matches because you were teaming with Eddie at the time, but for this TV match, you were just randomly teaming with these guys against.
I was teaming with them. Who was we working against? Just
enhancement guys. Like there's a squash match.
Oh, so I'm trying to think. Who that would? If I see the match, I can tell you who it was.
I'll get a clip of it and put it on the Facebook page.
Okay.
Because, like I say, they were just around for just a few weeks, and I couldn't recognize them. So
say just a minute. Well, they was probably from up north because Lawler always give a lot of guys from up north chances to come down here and be on TV and see what he thought of them. And also, Jerry Jarrett, when he was booking, he would give guys chances to come in and see what he thought of them. I mean, a lot of the guys would send tapes and stuff, but they would still tell them, come in. But usually if they put them on TV, they thought the tape that they'd seen was good. But, I mean, how was the match? Was it okay?
It was not good. No, okay. They were terrible. That's why I assumed they might have been training school guys because they looked like they had never been in a ring before.
Tom, that Gene just knocking me, ain't he?
No, you were good. There was a good thing they had you as a partner because you would come in and get things going, and they would tag in, and it would just go to hell. And you could see you over putting your hand out like, "Come on, tag me back in."
See, that's probably when Dougie was on the skit list.
You're right.
That's after he called Bill Dundee old man. He's like, "Tag them with them Russians. That'll show him."
Yeah.
They're young.
And say.
When Doug asked you how was it, he wasn't gonna give him no good prognosis.
And see, Dundee and Eddie Marvin was always best friends too. And Eddie Marvin had wrestling school in Nashville. There might have been two guys out of the wrestling school in Nashville. You can't. I mean, I don't know, but if you'll show me the tape, if we can get a clip,
I'll find that match and put it on the Facebook and let you see it. But around the same time, they were. What did they reflect on you? You're not. You're.
I still say. Please don't.
I mean, your part was good. It's just those guys were the shits. But that you didn't train them. They were from the Doug Gilbert school. So in September, the reason I said that though is during the show they were advertising the USWA training school, and then a few minutes later they come on. I was like, God, don't tell anybody these guys are from that school because you're not going to get any students. This is what's coming out of that school.
That was a couple of Randy Hale's boys, wasn't it?
Yeah, probably so.
Okay. I was starting to do my Randy impression, but I think we've done enough meanness today. We'll say that.
Go ahead, let me hear you, Randy Hale.
My impression is actually just an impression of my buddy Josh doing Randy. But anyway, so in September, Tommy, you and Buddy Landel beat Bill Dundee and Reno Riggins, and then that would be the last time we would see you in the USWA for a little bit. Well, for about a year, actually, before you turned back up in Memphis. Doug, you and Eddie would team up for more matches against Lawler and Jarrett, and then also you guys had a few matches with the Moondogs that I know we've discussed here in the past about how a couple of those matches went and how much you enjoyed those. While we're here, we've talked to Doug about wrestling the Moondogs. Tommy, how did you? I know you and Buddy had some matches with the Moondogs that we'll get around to eventually, but how did you like working with the Moondogs?
No. Hey, Larry. Hey, they was. I mean, for the gimmick they did, it was. I mean, it was good. It was fun. It was easy. You know. I mean, hey, Larry Latham. I mean, he was really good. Could move. He kind of like Phil Higgins, a great big man that could do about anything that you wanted him to do. And who was his partner then? Was it Jack Dalton or?
No, his partner then would have been Spike. Would have been Bill Smithson.
Yeah, 92 it was.
Okay. But I remember.
And hey, Bill.
They carried that gimmick for a long time, man. Folks. Hey, I remember Memphis and not just wrestling, me wrestling. I mean, they drew money with Dundee. I mean, they did good.
Well, I mean, we're covering these 93 shows right now, and when crowds are down, and they'll bring the Moondogs back out, they'll pop up on TV, and in 93 they're baby faces, and here they come, and they hear that whistle from Richard Lee, and the crowd goes nuts. I mean, they were over his heels and baby faces. You could bring them in, and you couldn't keep them around a long time because you can only see so much chair swinging. But
that's
because they were good.
Yeah, because I mean it was believable, and I mean them guys they was beat the guys they was beating up on TV. The people thought they was killing them, and there was. I mean, they really was. I mean, there's a lot of guys that they hurt really bad. That Larry hurt really bad. Now Bill was a good guy. And I don't mean that bad, but I don't think you should hurt anybody. I mean, that wasn't never our business. Our business is a working business. I mean, you got to work to feed your family. I mean, that's and I'm not saying nothing bad about Larry, but he took advantage of a lot of the guys.
Yeah, those TV guys, I mean, they would get close-ups of their back after he's hit them with those chairs and he's splitting people's head.
But I mean, they drew a lot of money because the people believed it and everything, and that's what we want is to draw money. But when you're working in the house shows and you're swinging boards at your top guys and you wind up breaking people's arms and stuff, that's not what you want.
No, not at all.
That's what I want.
No Memphis Mafia Moondog matches in 2025 anyway. So that's
thank goodness.
That at least.
Hey, the only one there's only one I know that's left, and he's from St. Louis and everything. He's a good dude.
The only one I ever worked with was Moondog Rover, and he was a little less stiff than the other ones. Is that the one you're talking about?
I think that's what I'm talking about. Right?
Yeah,
St. Louis? Yeah,
I believe so. That's what made me think of that because I worked with him in Corinth the first time, and the first time they're like, "Hey, you're working with the Moondog," and I was like, "Oh my god!"
And also,
okay, and he was easy as pie.
Gene, I don't have a date on this, but a guy called me the other night, and you're gonna laugh. I work with Lawler at a couple of them, but it's called a Banana Festival in South Fulton, Tennessee, which is right south. There's South Fulton, Tennessee, then South Fulton, Kentucky, right across the line there. And he wanted me and Tommy to work at it, so I'll have to get that date for you also.
Good deal. Yeah, we'll get you guys up there to the Banana Fest. That should be fun. So interesting enough, you guys would both head out of USWA to Japan in 92 with Tommy going to work for the War promotion, and Doug, you would be competing for Wing. Doug, clearly you enjoyed going to Japan because you went there frequently over the years. Tommy, how did you like working in Japan?
Oh, I enjoyed it. It's just so far away from home. I just didn't realize it's such a good payday. And of course, the first time I went back in the early 80s, late 79, 80. And, I went for 6 weeks. And at that time, they didn't carry but 4 Americans. And anyway, yeah, I was over there with Tiger Jet Singh. And it was like 6. I was there 4 weeks. And it was a hell of a payday. And, I got about in 4 weeks, I called Terry. It wasn't no cell phones or nothing. I called Terry crying, I want to come home. I want to come home. Then for the 5th week, you got that money coming to the end, the 6th week. So once you made it to the 5th week, it was good. But, I was like 19 or 20 when I went. And these were older guys. I don't even remember who. Tiger Jet Singh's the only one I remember that was really a name. And so it was strange for me. But then when I went, of course, I went a few more times, and I just wish I'd been smart enough to go. And I really had a good time when I went over for IWA with Dougie and them. We had a real good time, and that was real fun. But I enjoyed it after that. I didn't want to go much after that first 6 weeks. I did long time before I went back because of that, because I was dumb. I should have realized the money I was making, not spending no money. Of course, they take you out and you eat, you drink, whatever you need, it's there. So you don't spend no money. And I just one of those son boy won't be home. Yeah.
That first time you went, how shocking was it, by the way, how different the crowd reacts to things over there than wrestling in the South? Because the fans handle it a lot different, right?
Oh yeah, it wasn't westernized at all the first time I went. The next time I went, they had like a Shakey's. You remember Shakey's Pizza?
Mm-hmm.
They had a Shakey's Pizza in Tokyo, but you got outside of Tokyo, man, there wasn't nothing. You ate rice, fish soup, or whatever they had. That's what you ate, man. And it was in it, and the crowd, like you're talking about the crowd. You get out there and you do a big high spot or something, and you'd hear like clap, clap, clap. It wouldn't be whoa, whoa. It was completely, you do it like home. They go boom, 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 and they're just popping. And there, if you got a big clap, that was their big pop.
Right.
It was more like, Gene, like a church kind of atmosphere. Everybody'd be dressed up in suits and everything, and then you do some spots, like some great spots, and then all of a sudden at one time you'd hear everybody right together and everything. No, when I loved it. Japan, I loved it. I went 50 some odd times and everything, and I carried Tommy, I think 3 or 4 times with me, and man, we had a great time. And it was totally different when I carried Tommy with me. But the times there was McDonald's there, then Wendy's, different things. But the only thing like when we was in the country towns, there wasn't so much. It'd be fully Japanese. But still, Dick Murdoch told me one time when I was on a trip with him and Bill Dundee over there, to always make sure, and this was Terry Funk's logic too, always make sure the Japanese culture, you buy into it. They just, the advice Terry gave me was, he said, never try to learn Japanese. But I did. I was in the office, so I did, and I learned some Japanese. But he said, just you make them speak English to you. But their English was so broke up, I couldn't understand it. So I knew I had to learn something. I'd go to the office every day that we was off. Like our hotel was like 3 blocks. Tommy, when you went with me, didn't you go to the office with me a time or two? And we had an office, I'd go get on their phone and call for the tours, call the guys that they wanted for the next tours, and I'd tell them who I thought, and I'd ask them who they thought, and we would come to agreement and everything, and I'd call them and tell them, negotiate the money and everything. And we had everybody from Tommy, Dick Slater, Dick Murdoch, Mass Superstar, Dan Severn, Terry Funk, Tiger Jet Singh. There's I can't even think of all the guys. I got in my book, I've got wrote down everybody that I ever booked over there and everything. The Black Hearts. Remember Dave Heath as far as Gangrel, the Black Hearts and Luna, the Pit Bulls. There's just so many of them.
We talked about the Moondogs. You famously brought the Moondogs over there.
That was, I don't know if that was famously, but
I just know that it resulted in something famous happen that we'll definitely talk about here in the future.
It resulted in something famous with me and my brother, but anyway, we didn't agree on something, so that was it. But anyway, there were so many guys, but me and Tommy had such a great time over there, and he laughed at me because like the owner, he would ride on the bus with us, and he was a great guy. And I want to tell everyone I'm sorry. He just passed away, Mr. Asano, and he was a great man. I mean, he really took care of me, and everything he ever promised anybody through me, it was took care of and everything. And I mean, he was a great, loyal, honorable man and everything. And, but like I said, me and Tommy, we had great times over there. And I mean, we'd go out to different places, and we'd always, every night there'd be somebody to carry us out, and eat and drink what we wanted and everything. And, we had a great time. We worked hard. That was the whole deal. You work hard, and then you go out. And I mean, people take you out, the sponsors, whatever. And if you don't go with them, you ain't got to go. But I mean, we'd always have a good time. We go in nice, you go and they say the Yakuza, the Mafia runs everything over there. But I think their Yakuza and Mafia is different than what people looks at over here as Mafia. I mean, You know what I'm saying? But we was always really taken care of.
Yeah, I definitely in a future episode, I want us to kind of go through what what a tour of Japan was like from start to finish. I think would be fun for the
and it would. And one of the great matches that I saw Tommy had over there, which he had a ton of great matches over there. But one of them that I will never forget, man, I was so proud. When it was over, I stood up in the balcony and watched it. It was him against Tarzan Goto. And Tarzan Goto had just, I think, beat me, for the IWA World title sometime 6 months before that or something. And he was defending the title against Tommy, I think it was. And but they had such a match. They went about 35, 40 minutes. And I mean, they went. I mean, Japanese going. You talking about, man, I thought it was a great match.
He's the one with the blonde hair, right?
No, he was the one with the black. Remember, he was Onita's.
Oh,
like you remember big. He's a big guy, but I mean, he was in shape. But I mean, at your point, he was in. Well, I would say shape, but his shape's like a pear. It could be a pear, right? But I mean, he was in shape cardio-wise, what I mean. And he could go. And I mean, him and Tommy went. Like I said, they went 35, 40 minutes and everything for the IWA. I think it was for the IWA World title and everything. And, man, the people got him from Tommy being the former NWA World Heavyweight Champion. The people was with it from get-go. The crowd was great and everything. And, I mean, it was a cool match.
And I feel like Tarzan Goto probably had a lot of respect for you Memphis guys because, he came – so wasn't it kind of like a tradition for a lot of those guys to come do the, learn the American style and tour America? Because I remember Goto being in Memphis in the 80s. Him and his team was Sato, I think, Kiyo Sato.
Kiyo Sato. It was a thing. It made them more popular in Japan for them to come to the States, and then when they would go back to Japan, they would be bigger stars.
Right. It's kind of like a badge of honor to have gone and worked the States, and
right. So, they would come to the States, and then they would come. Also, they would like to send them to Mexico. And work in Mexico to go to the States and Mexico, and it would make them like bigger stars on the stage there.
Right. They would come to Memphis and they'd get managed by Tojo.
Yeah.
And then they would go back to Japan.
Every one of them, get managed by Tojo.
Absolutely. Well, guys, that gets us through your year of 1992 in USWA. There's not going to be a lot to cover in 93. We will talk about that in the future because we do know that, Doug, you did have that great feud with Eddie that we've talked about in the past on some podcasts. And Tommy really wasn't in Memphis much in 93, but he did dip in there and have a fun little feud with Jeff Jarrett, and we'll talk about that a little bit as well. And then we'll get on into 94. But coming up, like I said, we're going to do a Q&A episode. We got some questions. We're going to ask them to you guys. We've also got a pretty fun thing I'm excited about. We're going to have a birthday celebration for Mr. Tommy Gilbert coming up around his the time of his birthday soon. And so that's going to be fun. We're going to talk about a lot of his matches and places he wrestled and memories that both of you guys have of him because, you know, Doug is your dad and you grew up with him and you teamed with him. And we know famously Tommy wrestled him and tagged with him and even had a boxing match with him. And we've talked a bit about that in the past too.
I don't know if it's much boxing. He boxed my ears.
He got boxed by Mr. Gilbert. But and you know, as I was doing, I've already been starting to do some research for that episode. And I didn't realize, Tommy, that you and Mr. Gilbert were tag team champions together. So I have to think you may be one of the only people who have held tag team titles with Tommy Gilbert, Eddie Gilbert, and Doug Gilbert. Is there anyone else who would have that distinction, Doug?
No. No, there's not.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. I grew up. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I hadn't even thought about that. That's pretty cool too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Three generations. That's pretty tight.
Sure enough. So we got that coming up. So stick with us, folks, and keep sending in your questions and
send in your questions and rate, review, and subscribe. Whatever platform you're listening on. Like I said, Pro Wrestling Tees. Gilbert Family, Memphis Mafia shirts. We got everything for you. And, man, we appreciate y'all listening and everything. And like I said, Gene makes me and Tommy look a little smarter than we probably are. But anyway, if you got any questions, send them to him and he'll ask them. And like you just heard him asking us about people before, we're not going to, there's no reason for us to lie to you.
That's right. Like you said before, you can't promise they'll like the answer, but they're going to get an honest one. And what more can they really ask for?
Be wrong.
Yeah, that's the truth. And I mean, it might get heat with some people for me saying what I think, but I mean, I'm going to say what I think. I mean, I'm not going to. I've got heat my whole life for doing that, so I don't want to change now.
That's right. This is y'all's podcast. You're going to answer the questions the way you want to answer them. And if they don't like your answers, then they can get their own podcast. And hell, they probably have, because just about I think you guys were the last two guys that didn't have a podcast, and I finally got you talked into it. But they can go start a podcast, and they can talk trash about whoever they want to. And
right.
That's the way that all works.
And to me, though, Gene, it's not talking trash. It's just your feelings, your true feelings. I mean, I could sit here and lie and say everybody's great.
I asked you a question. You gave your honest answer. Tommy gave his honest answer, and then we moved on. But when I say talking trash, I wasn't referring to what you guys said, but you know as well as I do, there are guys who have a weekly podcast that simply spends an hour just dragging people through the mud and then back through a second and third time. And that's really the only reason the podcast exists, just so they can. And to me, there's a bit of difference between having a negative opinion about somebody that you share and then trashing them. You've never trashed anybody on this show, but people sure like to do that. And that's not what we do here, but that's their right.
No, we don't plan on it. Like I said, maybe people won't listen because of that, but I'd like to talk about good stories and stuff that me and Tommy done on the road and matches that we've had and great times us growing up. Like I said, I was a teenager. I was staying with Tommy. Tommy and Eddie was partners. I mean, like I said, my dad and Tommy was partners and champions. Eddie and Tommy was partners and champions. Myself and Tommy was partners and champions. They can't anybody else say that.
Hey, whether it's glitz and glamour or the dark side, if you want to know the truth, send your questions in, and that's Dangerous Doug and Tommy Wildfire Rich. Gene, love you, man.
Love you too, buddy. Love both of y'all, and I love doing this show, and I appreciate it. And like I say, it's all good feedback. I've not gotten 1 ounce of bad feedback yet, and a lot of people can't say that either. So you know what time it is, Doug.
Well, man, glad. Hey, man, we like I said, everybody rate, review, and subscribe. Whatever platform you're listening on. Listen, peace. We're out.
Well, that's enough of that. Hit the referee not once but twice. It's 2 against 1 in there. Yeah, you couldn't beat him fair and square, huh?
Dave, you can line them up. Eddie Marlin can line them up. It don't matter. Keep lining them up. That open door policy, as soon as they walk in the door, hits them back in the butt. We knock them out so fast, Dave. Tell them, King, what we'll do to them. I want to serve notice to everybody. You bring your big reunions of all your legends. You bring Tommy Rich. You bring the superstar Bill Dundee. You line the Rock and Roll Express up, and we're going to knock them down. Because I want everyone to be on notice of one thing. We are now formally known as the new Memphis Mafia, and we are taking contracts out on everybody in this area. Everybody. The Mafia, Dave. We're going to have to deal with it now.
The new Memphis Mafia. Now, speaking of wildfire, here he comes. Here he comes right here. Get a word or two. I guess you're very satisfied with interfering.
You like that too, didn't you?
I did not like that, no.
Yeah, I hear Dundee out here talking about he's got the great black hope, Junkyard Dog. Well, who cares about the dog? You know, you got a phone right here, don't you?
Yeah, we got a phone here.
You know where Buddy Landel's at? He's out buying us a big ranch today is why he's not here. We got the hog farm. We're going to put Dundee and them out there, and then we're going to get us some thoroughbreds. Anyway, get him on the phone.
All right, is he on the phone? All right. Buddy Landel, can you hear us?
Yes, sir, I sure can.
Well, Tommy Rich is here, claims you're out buying a ranch or something like that.
Hey, Tommy.
Yeah, Bubba.
Hey, baby, I'm over here with Mom and the baby. Hey, Tommy, look here. I just got home, man. You ain't going to believe it. That old man and that old woman, man, they're getting ready to foreclose on that ranch. And I opened that briefcase with that money, man.
Yeah.
That old man grabbed his heart and he laid back. He went, "Oh, Mama. Oh, Mama. God sent us an angel."
So he took it?
Yeah, he sent you 2 blonde-haired angels. Hey, looky here. Tommy, that old man, look here. You ought to have seen that old woman out there pushing that mule out there in that cornfield, man.
We're going to buy us a tractor, though, ain't
we?
we?
Pick that thing up dirt cheap, man. And listen to this. The best thing about it is that old man and that old woman are going to live and move. They're going to move into the barn, and they're going to work the land for us for 6 months for free.
Oh,
you believe that? And
hey, listen to this.
The best thing about it is they're going to build another room for Dundee and then the Junkyard Dummy, too, man. Can you believe that?
You got the word, huh? We got Junkyard Dog, the king of the dog biscuit eaters, and Bill Superstar Dundee. You know, right now, we're ready to go. We got a ranch. We set now, Dave.
I mean, you know the thing about it is the people got to remember. Bill Dundee been around there for a long time. Junkyard Dog, he doesn't burn his name out. Look here. Tommy Rich and Buddy Landel, we ain't seen our finest day yet, and 2 young men can beat 2 old men any day, boy.
Well, it's like we got right here, around here in this area here, we got the Great White Hope and the Great Black Hope. But when it's all over, there ain't going to be no hope for either one of them.
Or the people either. What I mean, Tommy, it ain't nothing for us to beat Bill Dundee up. It ain't nothing for us to say, "Hey, Junkyard Dog wasting his time coming up from Atlanta," because all he's going to do is get tore up once again.
Well, but, gentlemen, I'd love for you guys to continue this conversation here and explain how you're...
I'll call you in a little bit after I have fixed to go whoop up on somebody right now.
Well, I got to go out here and kick this old woman out in the field, man. She looks like she's trying to take a break on me, so I'm going to go put a foot in her butt, okay?
Yeah, that's fine. Tommy's got a match coming up right here, and Buddy, the 2 of you are going to have to deal with JYD and the superstar Bill Dundee coming up this week.
They're going to have to deal with us, Dave Brown. We don't have to deal with nobody.
I want everybody to remember one thing. The bottom line is 2 young men beat old men any day.
Well, we'll keep that in mind. Thank you, Buddy Landel, for your contribution here.
Hey, everybody. I know we talked about it at the beginning of the show, but I just want to remind everybody one more time where you can see the Memphis Mafia, Dangerous Doug Gilbert, and Tommy Wildfire Rich coming near you real soon. Coming up February the 1st, you can catch them in Wynne, Arkansas. March the 1st, they're going to be at the Jackson Comic Con in Jackson, Tennessee. on March 14th and 15th. Tommy's going to be up in New Jersey and at the big event for some signings up there. We're going to have more details about that. You can check out the Facebook page. Anything I tell you about right here, details can be found on the Facebook page, facebook.com/Doug Gilbert Podcast. Also, March the 14th, you can catch Doug in Henderson for that big fundraiser going on at the school over in Henderson. Again, more details on the Facebook page. Also coming up, April 18th and 19th, Doug and Tommy will be at Game Changer Wrestling in Las Vegas, WrestleMania weekend. Huge events going on there. And you can see your favorite Memphis Mafia members right there in Las Vegas for Game Changer Wrestling. And then last but certainly not least, May the 3rd, one and done, the big TWA reunion show, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, at the old ECW Arena. There's going to be the Fan Fest in the afternoon, and, of course, the big show that night where Doug and Tommy will be taking on Team Extreme, the franchise, Shane Douglas, and a mystery partner. What better place to do it right there in Philadelphia? So there's stuff getting added all the time, so always hang out till the end of the podcast here. We'll tell you where to catch these guys coming up. We'll tell you about all the signings. Tommy's got some virtual signings coming up as well. Again, check out the Facebook page for all that information and for cool videos, pictures, all kinds of content related to Doug and Tommy right there on the Facebook page. So make sure you check that out. We update it pretty much every day. So make sure you stay on top of things because we're always adding new content there every day. And it's always a lot of fun stuff that we end up talking about. Either we have talked about on the podcast or we end up talking about on the podcast. So it all ties together. And stick around while I tell you about a few more things you need to know right now. Before we get out of here, I just want to take a moment to remind everyone, if you have an upcoming wrestling show, autograph signing, collector show, Comic-Con, or any event or booking that you would like to inquire about the services of Dangerous Doug Gilbert and or Tommy Wildfire Rich, just send us an email at DougGilbertPodcast@Outlook.com, and someone will get back to you as soon as possible to get more information on your event and do the best we can to make that happen. Also, if you are interested in advertising your event, your business, your product to the listeners of Dangerous Conversations, as well as to promote your event, business, or product across all our social media platforms, you can send that inquiry to DougGilbertPodcast@Outlook.com. We would love to work together with you to get that out there to the listeners of Dangerous Conversations. Remember to check out DougGilbertPodcast.com. There you can find links to all things related to this podcast, as well as Doug and Tommy themselves. You'll find a link to the Dangerous Conversations Facebook page and the Dangerous Conversations Twitter, now known as X. And we're always posting content daily, involving the Gilbert family, Tommy Rich, all sorts of things from their career. We got magazine articles, videos, pictures, you name it. We're posting new content every single day. Make sure you follow so you don't miss out on any of that. Plus, you can follow Doug and Tommy's personal Facebook pages on there. Dangerous Doug Gilbert. You can search that on Facebook. You can also search Tommy Wildfire Rich. They both have Facebook pages. And Doug does have an X page as well, and you can follow them there. But if you really want to help support, you can go to the Gilbert Family Pro Wrestling Tees store, which there's a link to there on the DougGilbertPodcast.com. And you can find T-shirts of Doug, Eddie, and their famous father, Tommy Gilbert, as well. Also, Tommy Rich is going to be having some T-shirts coming up very soon. Follow him on Facebook. We'll be talking about him here. But look for some cool new Tommy Wildfire Rich T-shirts coming out soon that you can partake in as well. Also, if you've enjoyed the show, please subscribe, rate, and review the show on the platform of your choice. It would really help us in building up the podcast for the future. Plus, it helps us know what you like, what you don't like, where we need to take this podcast moving forward.
Also, if you want to see a whole bunch of matches, promos, and angles, a lot of the ones that you're going to hear us talk about on this very podcast, you can go and subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/@RetroWrestlingArchive. Of course, it's linked right there at DougGilbertPodcast.com, and you will find a ton of matches featuring Eddie Gilbert, Tommy Gilbert, Doug Gilbert, Tommy Wildfire Rich. There's playlists of all them that feature hundreds of matches of each of them. So make sure you go check that out. And not just of them, there are thousands, literally, at this point, of videos from wrestling from across the territory days, you name it. If we don't have the video uploaded to our channel, we at least have organized you a playlist of just about every territory, every show that's out there. You can find it in one convenient location there on YouTube at the Retro Wrestling Archive. Plus, don't forget, you can find all things related to my popular Retro Wrestling Review USWA podcast at uswapodcast.com. And last but certainly not least, we are proud to be a part of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network. Go on over to WrestleCopia.com to check out all the great pro wrestling related podcasts and various content that our friend Ray Russell provides you. You'll be glad you did. So thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next week for another episode of Dangerous Conversations with Dangerous Doug Gilbert and Tommy Wildfire Rich.
In the heart of Tennessee, born with pride, Doug and Tommy taking rings in stride. Memphis legends never backing down, wrestling warriors, they wear the crown. USWA, glory in their veins, fighting legends breaking chains. In the squared circle they made their name. Podcast champions, it's their claim to fame. On the mic they roar, on the map they soar. Dangerous conversations, fans wanting more. Podcast kings ruling the waves. Memphis wrestling raising the stage. From title belts to Hall of Fame, Doug and Tommy carved the name. Fists of fury and hearts of gold. Every story, every fight retold. Tales of glory, laughter, cry. Tennessee warriors with hearts open wide. In the ring or on the air, legends living without a care. On the mic they roar, on the mat they soar. Dangerous conversations, fans wanting more. Podcast kings ruling the waves. Memphis wrestling raising the stage.